Welcome in another episode OG Podcast. I'm your host, ND Kalu, and one of the real OGs, my homeboy Fred Weary, original Houston Texan, if I'm not mistaken. 2002, I was in Philly. That was the first year of the Texans, right, Fred?
2002 first draft class, and also 2002 first season.
So you're a true OG when it comes to the OG Podcast. So, there's so much to talk about with what you're doing today, what's going on with the Houston Texans, former teammate DeMeco Ryans leading the way, doing some great things. Let's talk about that year, though. Let's talk about you have a all-SEC career at Tennessee. You're going high. We just had the draft. Talk about leading up to the draft for you. Like, what was the thought? Where were you expected to go? What were some things being said? Then finish it with draft day for you.
Man, it was a lot of talk because it was several, offensive lineman guard type players that were coming out that year. Man, Terrence Metcalf out of Ole Miss, Kendall Simmons out of Auburn. They had the Hawaiian guy, I forgot his name, Fanoti, coming out of Nebraska and whatnot. So, the Texans was my only visit.
Oh, really?
Right. A lot of teams expressed, a lot of interest during that process. But, Miami, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and all that stuff. And they did end up drafting linemen and all that stuff. I actually had got a call from Baltimore in the second round saying that, hey, if I was still available, that they were going to take me and all and stuff. But, man, came on my visit here with the Texans, met with Tony Marciano, who was the offensive line coach at the time, met with Charlie Cashley at the time. They flew me in, and, it was a pretty good visit and all and stuff. They put me on the board, to see what I know about football. Hey, can you draw this play up? Can you tell me, hey, what everybody's doing? So it was a fun process, man. Draft day, man, it was just, me and my family, being from Montgomery, Alabama and all and stuff. It was a special moment from them. Man, I think we did some leg quarters on the barbecue pit, man, and just and then just leg quarters, some ribs and stuff, man, and just, had a good time with the family that day. I really wasn't, stressing too much about the draft. I knew, at some point I would go.
Right.
I didn't want to be one of them guys, thinking, hey, I'm finna go first round and first round go and second round go and all that stuff. Like I had told my agent that day, man, just, hey, whenever that call comes, it's destined to come. So it came in the third round. I was sitting there in between my mom and my dad and stuff, and it was just a surreal moment. All the hard work, things that we went through as a family growing up and all and stuff. So it was just really just one of those, impactful days for not only me, for my family as well.
And now you don't want to ask, when we talk about the kids that were just drafted in this past draft, you don't ever want to ask them who was your dream team. But now that you've had your successful career and you are OG, did you have a team that you were secretly hoping would have been on the other line of that call?
Not necessarily and all this stuff. I got to know Ozzie Newsome pretty well. Who was I guess he was the GM or in player scouting. With the Ravens at the time. I talked to them a lot during the Senior Bowl. They interviewed me a lot during the Senior Bowl. I actually thought, like I said, I thought that they were going to make a push and draft me. They called that, on draft day, right before they got ready to pick in the second round. And, I told my agent that, hey, if I was still there, they were going to draft me. So I kind of had got my hopes up. And then when they went another direction, it was like, okay.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because that annoyed the heck out of me. There's no reason to even make that call. It happened to me.
Yeah.
And I went in the fifth round, and for whatever reason, Cincinnati said, man, we really want you, but we don't think you're going to pass the third round. So I'm watching the draft, and I was kind of like you.
Yeah.
My thought, and, I went to Rice out, Tennessee, so I was just thinking, just get me in a camp.
Right.
But when you start to hear that, you start thinking, maybe it could happen. Mm-hmm. So when they said that, then Cincinnati, they go through the third round, the fourth round. And I'm like, well, why the hell would you even tell me that? It's not like college or recruiting where you're trying to. Right. So for you to hear that as well, I just don't understand why they would get players' hopes up when they don't have to.
Exactly. No, man. My anxiety kind of, went up because I knew I had been, talking with them, although I didn't go on a visit there, and It was actually surprising. I mean, when the Texans drafted me, although that was my only, visit that I had took, during that process, man, it kind of surprised me that they had drafted me and all and stuff.
All right, so you go from one southern town to another, but obviously Houston is a little bit different than Montgomery, Alabama. What was the biggest culture shock for you when you arrived here?
Man, the traffic. The traffic was the biggest thing. I mean, even when my time in Knoxville, I didn't have to really deal with a whole lot of traffic like that and all, because you can go through the back roads and just like in Alabama and Montgomery, But man, when I got here, man, the traffic was really the culture shock to me and all and stuff. Being from Montgomery, not a whole lot of traffic. I've been through cities like Atlanta, just passing, but never stayed there and all to have to deal with that traffic and stuff like that. So the traffic was the first thing that got me. Man, and this crazy too, because on my way here it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And my first time ever, because I came off of I-10, coming from Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and all that stuff, and I came over the port, and I'm like, I've never seen a bridge that tall, and it was raining on both sides. I couldn't see out the windows. I was by myself, man, and so I'm just slow rolling up that thing, like okay, my anxiety, but yeah, that was that was a funny story, man, when I first came here, when I first drove down here for OTAs and stuff to get started.
Now, tell the truth, with the traffic and you not being used to it, how many meetings were you late to?
I wasn't late to the meetings. I stayed right there in Maryland and all and stuff.
That's smart.
Yeah, they put us there during OTAs when I first came here. So that's where we stayed during OTAs, me and Chester, actually. And, man, shucks, Maryland, right behind the Walmart, right there on 610 South Post Oak. Me and Chester went over there one day. The apartments was just opened up. They were brand new. And we went ahead and got an apartment right there, too, once we got done with OTAs before we went to training camp.
And that's Chester Pitts, right?
Chester Pitts, yes,
all right.
sir.
So was that his first was that the same draft class?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Chester was picked before me, and I was the first pick in the third round for the Texans.
And he was second round offensive tackle, so there was obviously an emphasis on the trenches, on the offensive line. I personally, and I've said this before, I'm not saying it because you're here, I think that's the most important position group on the football team, because a good offensive line can make a good running back look great.
Right.
It can make an average running back look good. Mm-hmm. It could do the same for a quarterback when you buy time. So I definitely feel like you can't draft enough offensive linemen. With that being said, the Texans this year used the 7th round pick for Ladarius Henderson, guard out of Michigan. You work with young, aspiring football players. You played at the highest level. If you had a chance to spend a couple of days with him, what would be some of the things you would work with?
Man, just understand, leverage of this part of the game and all and stuff. And, you have to anchor a little more and all. I played against, defensive linemen like Gary Walker, who big, strong, and can move fast and quick. And, played against you and all and stuff. So, but it's a kind of a defensive linemen are doing a lot of different things, to perfect their craft. And so as offensive linemen, you got to continue to, work on your craft as well. One of the things that I did, and I talked with Darnell Wright, who was at the University of Tennessee. He was the first rounder for the Chicago Bears last year. I spent some time with him, when I went back from games and stuff and talked with him. Boxing was a big help for me and all and stuff in the off season, because obviously, we use our hands a lot and all and stuff. So, man, when I got into boxing, it not only helped me from a physical standpoint, get my weight down and those type of things, but it just helped, that eye-hand coordination. And then also, as an offensive lineman, you have to move your hands independently and all that stuff. You can't, because defensive linemen, with his chop, rip, swims and all that type of stuff that you got to deal with, you got to be able to, get those hands back in place as well. So boxing really helped me, as a young offensive lineman, get better at that.
That's the first time I've heard about, obviously, defensive line, the side I'm used to. We, some of us took some karate classes, judo, but that's actually the first time I've heard an offensive lineman talk about boxing. So did you get with an actual boxing trainer, and did he teach you as if you were going to fight, or did he try to cater his workout to fit you being a football player?
I mean, whatever he did, and I actually the trainer that I used was Frank Tate. Man, he's a gold medalist and all this stuff, and so hey, he worked with me just like he would be working any boxer to get ready and stuff. And he had some boxers that he was training during that time and stuff. So. Man, it was a great opportunity, for me and stuff. And I mean, I like challenges like that because you want to kind of, I was a multiple sport athlete in high school, so getting away from the game, doing some things different, is sometimes good. And I think that's why I had a mindset that boxing was going to be good for me.
You know what's funny about that? I worked out. I didn't do the boxing workout, but I worked out with a boxer when I was playing in San Antonio, Jesse James Leha. And we had a football trainer training us, but he would also train the boxer, Jesse James. Then we're all talking trash, as myself, Priest Holmes, Eric Brown, Houston Texan ambassador. But one day we're just all talking trash, like who are the better athletes. So you know where this is going. So Jesse James is real calm. He was all, man, why don't y'all just come do one of my workouts? Yeah. And by the third round, when I say I was tapping out, and not because somebody was whooping my ass, but because that workout and your shoulders just burn because you have to keep them fists in front of you. Yep. I've always had a respect for boxers, but I had a whole new respect just for their training regimen.
Man, it's and I did it all. From the jump ropes, speed bag to the ab workout. Dropping the medicine ball on there, working the abs. And I also, like I said, I trained with Frank Tate here. And then when I went home from Montgomery, so that was a part of my regimen. And so I used another trainer. And so you got to experience that difference from another trainer and what they do to work on, boxes and stuff, man. And so, it was just a good time. And I was, happy that I decided, and that I found those guys to be able to, do the training and stuff with me.
So if somebody tested you on the streets, would you use what they showed you? Like,
hey, look at that. I mean, when I was in there, I wasn't just in there working football, man. I'm working. Look at here. Hey, this is all the way around and all this stuff. And I mean, Frank, he even did he had an anti-bullying, class and stuff, and they had some of the younger kids and stuff to come in, not just to, teach them how to fight, but learn how to just, hey, man, you got to use mental toughness. That's what boxing is all about. It's about mental toughness. I mean, I was a wrestler in high school, and it's the same thing. I mean, you got to be, in those situations when it's just you got to be mentally tough to be able to handle, whatever comes towards you.
Not just a wrestler, 3-time state champion. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you wrestled, 3-time state champ. Right. You trained as a boxer. Mm-hmm. You played multiple years in the NFL. At any time, did you think, should I go MMA?
I actually thought about it.
I bet.
I actually thought about it because a part of, because Frank, they trained not only boxers, they had some MMA guys as well. And one of the guys who was training from MMA, he found out that I was a wrestler and all that stuff. It got talked about. And so I used to work with him, just on the grappling aspect and all that stuff. So we used to work out and, then we would, wrestle just to help him, kind of train him and stuff, on just grappling and understanding how to play from the ground and stuff. But, wrestling was huge for me. I mean, as a lineman, I played both offense and defensive lineman in high school, man. Wrestling, man, just teaches you so much about leverage and all that stuff. And I mean, I think it's great for any young athlete as well and all that stuff. I know a lot of the schools here in Texas, in the Houston area, don't, have wrestling, but if you can get in a good wrestling program, that's always good, especially for a lineman. I think any defensive lineman, fullbacks, any position, and all that stuff in football.
So let's go back because you retire, and we still 99.9% of the guys, once you retire, you still have those competitive juices. You still want to go out there and use your body to make ends meet. How long did the thought last? Like, should I go into MMA? Should I go into UFC? Like, did you daydream about being the next UFC heavyweight champion?
Nah, I wouldn't say it didn't really go too far and all that stuff because because even through the boxing they used to talk about sparring. I think who was it? Antoine Peak?
Yeah,
had came in and he sparred somebody one day and all this stuff. But I just man, I just didn't really kind of feel like that. I mean, I've already been hit my head enough. And
I
all
heard
this stuff.
that. I heard that. All right, let's move up in the draft. One of the second-round picks, for those listening, most of you know the Houston Texans did not have a first-round pick, but they had 2 second-round picks. Kamari Lassiter was the first pick, cornerback out of Georgia. And the second pick, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, Blake Fisher. Just kind of thoughts, not so much on Blake Fisher, I'm not saying breakdown, but drafting an offensive tackle with your second overall pick as an organization.
Man, you win football games in the trenches. I mean, whether that's on the offense or defensive line. I mean, you got to make sure that you're, taking care. That's a necessity. You know what I mean? Because those guys, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, they can't do anything if you don't have those guys to take care of the business up front. I like the second pick, the kid from Notre Dame. I mean, one of the things that jumped right out at me, man, is hey man, he knows how to sit and play with leverage and all and stuff. And so when as a former offensive lineman myself, when I see those, or watch guys on film, I mean, those are the things that I'm looking for. You know what I mean? He plays with knee bend, he plays with power and all and stuff. And so I think that was a great pick for them and all and stuff. And I think he'll probably, potentially come in and, be a
push some guys. He's gonna push.
Hey, well, it's moving chairs sometimes with that offensive line and stuff. So you gotta. I mean, that's the thing about having a good offensive front. Hey, it's like putting a puzzle together. I gotta make sure all the pieces fit and all and stuff. So hey, it may be some moving around. I mean, if he comes in and take care of his business and do the things that he's supposed to do, grow as a pro football player and. And grow early and all and stuff. I think that's be a good fit for him on his offensive line.
Here's what I like about that pick with Blake Fisher, offensive tackle of Notre Dame. Look, people don't want to say it because of the successful season, and we forget. We have to be reminded the best teams, you compete at every position. So Blake Fisher is coming in here saying, Titus Howard, I'm going to respect you,
right?
But I'm trying to take your spot. He's going to come in here and say Green, if they bump me down as a guard. I respect you, but I'm trying to take your spot. And you want good players, like you said, guys that jump out on the screen to be, competing against one another. So when they drafted him, I didn't know much about him, but I knew I was going to be talking to you. So I was like, okay, good, I could find out. But I knew this wasn't a guy that, let's draft him to be a swing tackle. It's like, no, it's to stir up. I think outside of Laramie Tunsil, everybody out there should be fighting for a job.
Yeah. I mean, heck, you look back, I mean, shucks, when Manchester was drafted, I mean, did we know that because we looking at, shucks, they got Tony Buscella in the room, you got Steve McKinney in the room, Jeremy McKinney, who was, a longtime NFL player, Ryan Young, we had guys like that in the room, and opening day, Manchester are starting as rookies and all and stuff. And that's the, mentality that we came in with to, hey, we're not just in just coming in here, no matter where we were drafted and all and stuff. I mean, it's business as usual. Let's go out here and, we worked our way through OTAs, through mini camps, through OTAs and through training camp. And, next thing you know, hey, we're starting day one.
It's kind of cool that you came into an organization that hadn't played one game yet, but that's all you knew. So I was going to ask you, did it feel like you were in a startup organization?
No. I mean, Texans have always been a first-class organization. We came in, we had a lot of veteran leadership, Aaron Glenn. Like I said, I mentioned Gary Walker earlier. I mean, had Tony Buscella, even though he didn't get on the field and all and stuff. But we were able to lean on those guys and everything and stuff. I mean, Billy Miller, it's a Chris Brown. I mean, we had Eric Brown. I mean, we had a list of guys that have been Ryan Young. Man, I can go down the list. We had for a rookie class coming in, we were surrounded by a lot of veteran leadership.
Right.
Although, yes, the Texans was in that first season, in that locker room, it didn't feel that way. And that's, I always go back to that, when people, ask about, hey, maybe the wins wasn't there, but you can never question our locker room. You can never question whether we went out there and played hard. You can never question, any work ethic about things in the locker room. We were never at each other's necks in the locker room because we came in with a lot of veteran guys, and they showed us a lot of veteran leadership and all at that time.
You say the wins weren't there, but there was a huge win that resonated throughout the entire NFL, and it's almost like these crazy historic events. Like, you remember where you were when you heard about OJ. Well, I remember where I was when I heard the Texans beat the Dallas Cowboys opening game, and we're sitting in the locker room in Philadelphia, and we're all looking around like, hey, man, you see what them boys in Houston did? So you were there on the field. Just kind of talk about how special that was.
Man, it was very special. It's, a lot led up to that. Of course, we scrimmaged them. They came down here to Houston. We practiced against them. During the preseason, during training camp, I think we were over at, I guess it was U of H older field, and we, had and they literally just, they mollywopped us. You know what I mean?
During the week of practice.
I wouldn't say during the week of practice, but that scrimmage we had that night, it was just like they were on, like they were playing in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, you don't take any time you step on that field, you don't take that for granted. But that scrimmage that night, they brought a little bit more to the table. I would say. I remember one play. I forget who the defensive end was, but they ran an ET stunt, and I'm talking about the defensive end just literally just ear-holed me, and it's just like, okay, all right. And we kind of picked ourselves up, as a football team, and said that hey, we can compete with them. Because throughout the week of practice, it was just like what and what and all and stuff. And so, but that first game, just the electricity in the building, I think that really, we were coming in that game pissed off from that, from that scrimmage and just the things that they were doing, and it was just their antics and all and stuff. Look, hey, we got something for that, and all and stuff. But the electricity that was in, Sunday night football. I can't exactly remember how long football hadn't been in Houston before we played that game. Man, but the fans brought just so much energy and all and stuff, man, that night, and I think it elevated all of our play and all and stuff. And once we got in there, and they were in our house at that point, and all and stuff, and it really felt that way and all that night. And so, man, it was just one of it was great to get that W against America, so-called America's team that night. And everything and stuff. I think we kind of, came out and made a statement, but it kind of started back, when we worked out against them, during training camp and stuff. So, we kind of took, that bad taste in our mouth, and we made sure we took it to the field that Sunday night.
That's an awesome story. I didn't realize that y'all had a chance to the dual practices during training camp, and then that's kind of when they try to flex on y'all. Yeah. But when the game actually mattered, y'all said, "Okay, we got some." So I know that's a special feeling. Would that game rank in your top 5 all time as far as special victories? High school, college. I know there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Would that make the top 5?
Oh man, definitely so. Just to just just how we went about doing it, everything that built up to that moment, then the first, rookie start for me, I think, yes, that's definitely, ranks up there. Of course, winning the national championship at University of Tennessee is always, that was a special moment.
That's why I said top 5, because I knew there was a couple that were going to be ahead of that.
Yeah, but I definitely give that moment, being the Cowboys, that first game, man, that's definitely number 2.
Talk about, because it's not every day you get a chance to talk to a national champion. So just talk about that season. Was it one of of those special seasons before the year started? You thought to yourself, you know what, we might have something special here?
Yeah.
What was that like the year? First, give us the year. I read it, but I want to make sure I have it right. And, just what it was like that year.
It was 98. Of course, I think the sports media world had, written Tennessee off after Peyton left and all this stuff. Had T. Martin coming in as the new quarterback and all that stuff. But, again, leadership in the locker room. I mean, guys like Al Wilson, Jonathan Brown, Peerless Price, we came in as freshmen, myself, Jamal Lewis, Cozy Coleman, Deion Grant. So, I mean, we, again, came with the mindset that we want to work and be a part of something special and all that stuff. And that's what it was all about, just a commitment by the team, just a team, a collective team effort and all that stuff. So, man, that was my, red shirt freshman year. I was dealing with an injury. Oh, it's a funny story about that. I played all season long. All right. When I first got to Tennessee, I had a stress fracture in my, baby toe, fifth metatarsal. The stuff that I ended up, having surgery, putting a screw in and whatnot and stuff. And, sat out for half of the season that year. And I ended up having coming back probably, I think we were getting ready to play Ole Miss, one of the defensive tackles. My first day back out at practice.
Don't tell me you stepped on your
foot. Nah, one of the defensive tackles, the starting defensive tackle, Billy Ratliff, ended up, he got hurt in practice and all that stuff. So initially, I was just supposed to come out there, kind of gradually, start getting back in. Maybe, in a couple of weeks, we're going to, get him to, maybe get him some reps and get him back out on the field. And I'm over there with the trainer. We're just doing some, just light jogging, getting off the football, working with the trainer. And Billy gets hurt. And I hear Coach Fulmer screaming across the field, "Is Fred ready?" And so the trainer
that's funny.
Hey, this is a true story, man. "Is Fred ready?" I was like, "Whoa, where is he ready?"
Yeah.
It's my first day back out at practice, but I knew the sense of urgency. I wasn't going to say no, you know what I mean? So we go to pass rush and all and stuff, man. And so I'm like, I'm amped up, you know what I mean? I'm about to get in, and, I go from, I had to go to 100 real quick and all that stuff. So I go in pass rush, man. I end up putting a move and bending the corner and stuff, beating the lineman and all. And I came up, ripped up under that thing, man. I felt that thing. So I ended up breaking my foot.
Again.
And also bent the screw in it.
Wow.
And so, man, I played.
Thanks, Coach.
And so that national championship year, I played, all season long and all with that. And it was crazy part about it, man. I played all the way to the SEC championship game. We were playing Mississippi State. We get an interception, and because I had, been hurting my foot so much, instead of planting and turning and going and getting downfield and go to block, you can see me on film. I go a whole circle just so
that Cadillac turn.
That Cadillac turn, exactly. And we was, in the meeting, and the coaches, at that moment was like, man, that guy's, he's not right and all and stuff, man. And long story short, man, I ended up coming to Houston, having surgery. I came and saw Dr. Baxter here in Houston. So that's ironically, right? End up having that surgery here in Houston to get my foot. But, the sad part about that, I had to sit down for the national championship game. Yeah. I was like, we could have had the surgery after the national championship game.
Right.
Coach, I done played all this time.
Now you want to see if I'm okay, if I'm ready to go. After my first day back, when I'm supposed to be doing jogging, wind sprints, you're going to ask, is he ready to go?
Yeah.
But I hope – I wasn't going to say I'm sure, but some of these coaches are jerks. I hope they appreciated what you did.
Yeah, they did, man.
Okay.
And, fast forward, I came after I had the surgery. Fulmer pulled me in, because they were losing a lot of linemen. They lost Trey Teague, Mercedes Hamilton, several Jarvis Rito, several other guys on the offensive line. And, at that point, I just wanted to play football and all that stuff. I had been dealing with, that injury for those 2 years And, he was like, hey, if you want to, move over to the offense. My defensive line coach didn't want to let me go and all and stuff. But he was like, potentially start right away. And, so I was like, hey, as soon as I get cleared to play, hey, we'll try it out and all and stuff. And the rest is history.
And you played it in high school too, so it wasn't. It was still new playing high school and playing SEC ball, two entirely different.
Yeah.
But you've gone through some of the drills and knew the basics.
Right. Yeah. So I played left tackle in high school and all and stuff. So I was pretty, again, wrestling background, understanding leverage and all and stuff. That really helped me once I decided to move over to offense.
What one or two drills or bits of advice for a young offensive lineman would you give them to learn leverage and learn the position? Can it be summed up in one or two drills?
Yeah, flexibility. Okay. You get on those hurdles, man. Go through those hurdles, up and under, over. Picking your knees up and stretching and all and stuff, man. I think that's was the key for me. I was always, for my size, always considered, very flexible and all and stuff. And, and that's something that I worked on. Actually, during my pre-draft training, that's when kind of yoga and different things kind of really started taking off. And I used to stretch every night, before I went to sleep and all and stuff. And that helped me, get limber. Stretching also helps, in terms of durability, injuries, and those type of things. So, just being committed to it. And you have to be committed to it and all that stuff. It's one of those things, just like boxing. If you're going to do it, you got to be committed to it and all that stuff, to get better at it and help your craft. So that's the same thing with stretching. So stretching is key, and then just, taking care of your body as well.
I'll say this about stretching. I keep trying to get on the youngsters I talk to, mainly my idiot kids, about doing the little things. And I always bring up stretching because, and you've seen it, there'll be so many times where you see a flexible guy in a compromising position where it looks like, ooh, he probably tore something, and then he just pops up. Yeah. And it's like, oh, he's okay, thank God. Yeah. And then there'll be other times where, another great athlete who's very tight, it doesn't look like he was in that harmful of a position, and it's like he tore everything. He tore everything. Yeah. So it's tough to get across, and I was guilty of it too. Even though I knew you have to be flexible, but just like you said, and all it takes is 15, 20 minutes while you're watching TV at night in your apartment, dorm room, foam roller. But I'm glad you said that because I'm actually going to play this part of the podcast for those youngsters that I deal with, because everybody's strong, right? Everybody's fast. Most of the people are explosive, but it's the ones that are like overly flexible and
that's it.
Just do those little things. So I'm glad you said that.
And another part of that, man, when we came up through high school, what was the old saying? Hey, you can't make the club in the tub. You know what I mean?
The club in the tub.
Man, but I learned from injury situations, whether it was band walks, those things that you do to, get yourself back healthy, man, that became a part of my regimen, as well and stuff. And, I even tell my son today, he was coming off an injury. I'm like, hey, continue to go on work on that. You just don't know how much that helps and improve, your durability and your ability to stay on the field.
I want to go back because you talked about winning the national championship at Tennessee, and it was the year after Peyton left. And I remember that because it was a year after I got drafted. So I remember watching y'all, and T. Martin had a magical year. Did Peyton ever come back during the season? And obviously he was busy with the Colts, but did he ever show any kind of support, or was he or was he hating on y'all? Like, oh, hold on, how y'all gonna win this when I'm not here?
Man, a lot of people, Peyton, phenomenal guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Man, Peyton was a phenomenal guy, phenomenal teammate. Peyton actually, because I was when I was coming out of high school, I don't know if this would be a recruiting violation or whatever.
It's past the statute of limitation.
But when I was coming out of high school, I was torn again between Alabama and Auburn, and also leaving the state and everything and stuff. Man, that was really huge on my plate and all at the time and stuff, man. And as a senior in high school, I got a call from Peyton one night and all and stuff, and got a chance to talk to him and stuff. And that's just the type of guy he is and that's everything. Big. He didn't know me, from anything, but knew, just probably listening, to coaches and all. man, this guy's really kind of, maybe you could say something to him or talk to him or answer any questions and stuff for him. So, that was always top notch and everything for me. And, that was the type of teammate he was and all and stuff. And I mean, even seeing him doing, his Omaha productions and everything now, that's Peyton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, for a while, whatever with the Heisman, you look back at all those films and you see the look on his face, that kind of, he wasn't able to be himself and everything because there was a lot of pressure and everything and stuff. But, man, once he kind of got from up under that microscope and all, you kind of just see, hey, man, that's Peyton and all that stuff. So I enjoy all the stuff he's doing right now because, man, he was a funny character and stuff. And but, yeah, he came back and all and supported T. I mean, I think T will tell you guys, I mean, whether it was in the film room, on the film, they really worked well together and stuff. And, T was just an extension of what Peyton, helped him with and how he brought him along as a player as well, too.
I've only played against him and talked on the field, but he's always seemed just like a great person.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, and I'm not a big Saturday Night Live guy, but the one I saw that he hosted, I mean, he's one of those few people that I feel like he could do anything he says his mind.
Yeah.
Like if he wanted to be a full-time Hollywood actor, I think he would be successful if he wanted to coach, whatever it may be. So now that's pretty cool that he was still supporting y'all.
He definitely was. I remember also his brother Cooper, man. I got to know him, and it's like, man, how you all these things just line up together. So I mean, Alabama Mississippi All-Star game, Cooper. He was there because he was doing TV or I guess sportcasting or journalism at the time and stuff. So got a chance to talk with him after the game and stuff. He interviewed me after the game, told me that he was a brother. So I immediately, let me find out about this guy and all this stuff and found out about his story and all. Man, just a great family. Spent time with Eli when he used to come up down recruiting visits and stuff like that, man. Great family and stuff, so.
No, they definitely seem like a great family. Well, there's some great things going on here in Houston. So before we end this, you and I have a chance to do a lot of things in the community on behalf of the Texans, but just the excitement in this building. Can you kind of you were here from day one. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were here when we probably had one of, if not the most exciting victory over the Cowboys. But just talk about like this past season and what it means to still be involved with this squad with D'Amico leading the way.
Man, it's awesome. I think it's again the team, the culture has been there. I don't think that ever changed. I think the first thing that D'Amico probably understood he had to do is change the culture in the locker room and all that stuff. And I mean, and I think I knew once that happened, I said that, even leading up to it, I mean, someone comes here and just change that culture in the locker room and get it back to where it needs to be. Hey, this organization is going to be fine and all that stuff. And I mean, D'Amico, he has, passion and love for game. I was here when he was drafted in 2006 and all that stuff, and even, playing with him as a teammate. I mean, he brought that same fire mentality to the team and stuff. And, that those type of things resonate and all that stuff. It resonated not only in young players, it resonates for older players as well and stuff. So, man, I think, just the direction of the organization is in a positive place and all that stuff. And, the sky's the limit for them. Long as I think this team stays healthy, continue to do the things they've been doing in the offseason, whether that's through the draft, through free agency, making those right moves, bringing in people that want to come in and be a part of the solution.
There it is.
And all that stuff. And that's what it's all about. And I think, they've been solution oriented over the last, few years to, hey, get this organization back to, where it needs to be.
All right, that's the voice of Fred Weary, one of the true OGs. This is the OG podcast, but he is the actual true OG, drafted in 2002. So one of the original Texans, original gridiron. So the OTG is what we'll say right there. You're the triple. You know how they say on the streets, he's a triple OG. That's what you are. But you're definitely appreciated, and I was glad that when I heard that you were coming to be a part of the podcast. So definitely appreciate everything you're still doing in the community with football and with the youngsters. But that's Fred. I'm ND. This has been the OG podcast. Don't touch that dial.